Great. My name is Heather. I know many of you. And if I don't know you, I guess we'll probably know each other by the end of this. But we all know Phil. So I'll warn you, I will not be brief. I have a lot to say about Phil. How did it get to be too late so soon, indeed? Thank you all for coming to honor, celebrate, and really thank Phil for being Phil. Right? He's here, he's listening to us, he knows. 801 Main Street in Myrtle Beach. That's where I first met Phil Fox, or Foxy Phil, as I sometimes call him. It was in 1993 at what was then Ibby's Coffee House. You will know it now as Sun City Cafe. He would often be found at Ibby's playing They Might Be Giants, REM, and Police covers, along with what are now Phil Fox original classics like Mary Canary, Junior High, The Devil's in My Attic, that he penned for the Ibby's open mic nights. Phil was still working at IBM, and I was a rock radio DJ that some called Leather Heather. We became fast friends, not that fast, not like that, spending hours on end talking about music and life. And then in 1996, I bought Ibby's Coffee House from Lauren and Jeffrey Lloyd. I turned it into Nocturna, and I implemented a thou shalt play no covers policy, which Phil absolutely relished in. And he started writing even more and more. I also introduced Phil to my then boyfriend, Jamie Merman. I brought Jamie on as well as Tom Pardue as partners in the coffee house. Jamie played guitar but wanted to learn the bass, and Phil encouraged him in this new direction. The result, along with Scott Watkins on drums, can be heard on Phil's Songs for Nocturna album and early Wicked Gift tracks. Phil loved coffee houses. And Songs for Nocturna was his ode, his love letter to not just Nocturna, but to the spirit of all such Java joints that hold space for those who create original works. Places like Ibby's, the Algonquin, the living room, and of course where we are now in the Java juggernaut that is Fresh Brewed. Kate Curran and I share in having a relationship with Phil that was rooted in holding space for those who create original work. We want you to know that Fresh Tunes at Fresh Brewed will keep going in Phil's honor, picking back up in October just as he had planned it. Okay? I hope that is as comforting to y'all as it is to me.
Yes.
Going through my old Nocturna mementos, I came across a rare treasure, a piece that Phil wrote for one of the other regulars. Her name is Bonnie Calamine. Back in 1988, he penned this, and she was one of the original high school coffee house kids who was as much of a fixture as Phil and several of the faces that I see here tonight. It's called A Brief Historical Perspective, and you'll find it to be a pure Phil Fox work, full of wit and forsooth. Now let me sing a chorus song of when the universe was young, about an object lost in space which came to rest upon this place, an artifact that wandered here across the long forgotten years, from when the world was in its youth, which bore the name of Bonnie's Booth. For when the ancient fishes planned to wriggle out upon the land and rise above the fetid stench, 'twas here they rested on this bench. The prehistoric moon would soar above the clouds as with a roar. Tyrannosaurus broke his tooth upon a blank of Bonnie's boot. The local cavemen tried in vain upon its back to carve their names. When Cheops raised his mounds of stone, they say he used it for a throne. As booty from the land of Tut, it made a home for Caesar's butt. The knights in armor sat, forsooth, in Camelot on Bonnie's booth. But then, alas, the bench was lost. Across the mighty sea it tossed, and came to light some centuries more upon the Carolina shore. A Spanish fort, a Tory cell, George Washington slept there as well, but none in all these years could sleuth the mystery of Bonnie's booth. And so, not knowing what they found, they came to build a town around, and in its very center stood a coffee house, as well it should. And in its window, from that date, the bench immortal lay in wait. Oh, how the mighty cosmos reared when Bonnie then herself appeared, and how the lords of evil groaned when next she claimed it for her own. The lightning broke from Zeus's crown. She laid her books and pencils down. And as the thunder shook the air, she smiled and softly ordered, "Bear." Now rainbows dance on heaven's brow, and so she lingers even now. Bonnie herself may leave one day, but Bonnie's booth is here to stay. O stranger, sit not there forsooth, lest ye be told that's Bonnie's booth. And that, I found, is such a treasure. It's actually in his handwriting. So Bonnie could not be here. She sends her love. She is, I believe, watching on the live stream. And by the way, those booths are still down at Sunset. When Phil retired, it's kind of funny, right? When he retired, he did not rest on his laurels. No, he went on a seemingly endless creative tour de force, cranking out songs, Wicked Gift albums, plays, a film, a book, paintings, hosting a writers group, and the original music showcase, Fresh Tunes at Fresh Brewed. And in the midst of his own prolific cacophony of creative achievements, he still found time to show up for others, to see their performances, to read their books, to encourage them and enthusiastically show support. To be a fan. In a sea of critics and competitors, Phil Fox relentlessly showed up with his welcoming spirit as an encourager and collaborator. He is one of those unique souls, along with people like Brian McKenzie and Brian Rossler, just to name a very few, who have been absolutely instrumental, pun intended, in creating the supportive music community that we have today. Seemingly ubiquitous for more than 30 years on the Grand Strand, Phil could be found from Ocean Annie's to the Pit and all points in between. But if you were in orbit high above downtown Myrtle Beach, you would likely see a trail of Phil's sparkling energy from Nocturna to Neil's to Alley Cats, from the basement to Drink to Bodo's, from Fresh Brew to Atlas Tap House to Nance Plaza. That's where Phil just played his final show with Wicked Gift on the 2nd of this month. In Nance Plaza at the First Friday Art Walk. I'm so grateful that I was there. He even blew the dust off one of my favorite songs, My Arms Asleep, and did it there. It's my very favorite Phil Fox song. You may have known Wicked Gift from the very beginning with Jamie Murren and Scott Watkins. Or you may have come to know them in the early aughts when they were joined by Rebecca Dawkins. Or the Basement Drink years with Drew Jacobs, Sam Favada, Ruben Long, occasionally Birdzilla would be there. Or maybe you just discovered them at last year's album release party hosted by the Goofy Footers at the train depot. with their current lineup of Drew Jacobs, Peyton Benton, and Matt Sellers. Or maybe some other incarnation. I'm not sure, but no matter how you came to know them, I guarantee you had some of the best times of your life basking in that Phil Fox energy. The last time I saw Phil was at the May the 4th Be With You edition of Brian Rossler's Songwriter Circle at Arcadia Studios. There's the distinct possibility that we heard the last song Phil ever wrote at that circle. That's a tough thought. I have the most wonderful gift from Phil to carry with me from that day. It's the memory of looking over and seeing him enthusiastically clapping for my song. Right? One last act of bright-eyed, enthusiastic encouragement. What I'm most grateful for from that last day, though, is that I told him he was one of my favorite people in the entire universe, and that I've always been happy to see his face. Midnight minstrel rocker, strummer singer, keyboard slaying songwriter, author, playwright, filmmaker, graphic novelist, director, producer, painter, father figure, brother, bandmate, host, friend, mentor, prolific creator, and collaborator. Phil Fox really did all the things, didn't he? Through his kindness, his gratitude, his encouragement, his generosity of spirit, and his being a conduit of creativity and connection, he achieved something that people can only dream of aspiring to, and that is significant. He was significant and is significant in the lives of so many of us here. Significant to the greater creative community of the Grand Strand and beyond. He has had a meaningful impact on multiple generations of creators, and even beyond his own multitude of wonderful works. I believe that will be Phil Fox's most enduring legacy. The generations that he encouraged and influenced. Those of us who have benefited from that encouragement now have a responsibility to pass it on. To practice that spiritual gift of encouragement. To let it ripple endlessly through space and time. To give encouragement to others, to speak life into their creativity, will cost us absolutely nothing. But I can tell you, from personal experience, it will be priceless to those who receive it. Like everyone here, I love, adore, and appreciate Phil Fox. And the best part of the bond that we all share here in loving him, and those watching, is that he absolutely, completely, and enthusiastically loved us back. Thank you, Phil.